to the A-Team on Sports Talk 790.
A-Team continues here on a Thursday afternoon. Adam Wexler, Adam Clanton here with you, and a real pleasure for both of us to bring in the Texans general manager here to the program, Nick Caserio, as the team wraps up their fourth day of practice at the Greenbrier, the resort there in Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Nick, really appreciate you taking a little bit of time to spend here with us and our listeners. And unfortunately, with what happened in practice today, that is where we will begin. It's not what anybody wants to see. D'Amico obviously addressed it a little bit with the media that was there earlier today, but just some thoughts from you on C.J. Gardner-Johnson and the injury today at practice.
Yeah, first off, appreciate you guys having us. Great to be here. As far as practice is concerned, I would say with CD, we're still working through that here a little bit. I mean, anything when that happens in practice, something like that happens in practice, everybody, kind of assumes the worst, and, your thoughts are with the player. And, I think our team is a very connected team, and you saw that, and everybody's concerned. So, we'll get through the afternoon here, try to get a little more information. Don't necessarily have anything to confirm right now, but, we'll see what the outcome is. I mean, hopefully it's positive, and whatever the situation is, we'll deal with it accordingly. But, CD's been great to have with the team, and, hopefully we're moving in the right direction here. We'll get more information here from our medical folks over the next, 24 hours or so.
Well, and obviously the individual is of the utmost concern, but then just the fact that if you have him out for any significant period of time, you're talking about a blow to a defense that was already going to be fantastic. And I know you guys were dying to see what he could add to what was already an elite level side of the football.
Yeah, I mean, we feel like we have a number of players on that side of the ball that can help us. A number of players that have experience in the system, a number of players that we added back to the team that were here previously. Someone like Rank added a player like CD. So we feel like we have a decent amount of depth on that side of the ball. So training camp is about building your team, and we've shown the ability. You guys have kind of seen how we operate. If there is an opportunity or a situation out there that makes sense for us to improve our team or grab a player that we feel can help us in some capacity, then we'll certainly entertain it and be open-minded. But CD's had a great attitude. He's kind of blended with our group. I think the one thing about our secondary specifically, we have a number of players that have a degree of versatility that have played multiple spots. Guys that play corner and nickel. You have some nickels that play safety. So I think the one thing you want to try to do is build as much depth as possible on that side of the ball. So wait, D'Amico and Coach Burke want to play defense. So, we feel like whoever's on the field is going to give us a good level of play, and, we'll adjust however necessary, whatever the outcome is.
Nick, one thing you've talked about since D'Amico's hire, and both of you have actually said the same thing about how well you believe the two of you have worked together in putting together the culture of this team, but most obviously the roster of this team. I think I've asked you this before, and I'm curious how it stands maybe a couple more years in. Why do you think that is? Why do you and D'Amico seem to work so well together in putting this team together, and you and everybody there, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it publicly, how much respect and admiration I have for D'Amico as a person and as a football coach. And I think the reality is we have a very mutual respect for one another. The one thing I think the two of us, people would say, is we're pretty open-minded. Neither one of us have an ego. And when you're building a team, when you're putting something together, it takes a collective effort. It's not about one individual voice, one individual player. It's about seeing the other side of it. If we have differing opinions or viewpoints, but we try to arrive at an endpoint, whatever it is that we feel is best for the Houston Texans team and organization. That's how we've operated. We talk every day. We talk about the team. We talk about the players. He's very open-minded. We take feedback from one another. So I think it all starts, it's rooted in respect. And I've said publicly just how much I think of him as a person, and professionally as well. So very grateful and honored to be able to work with him on a day-to-day basis. He's probably one of the few people that can put up with me in this building. No, I'm kidding. But no, we get along well. And in the end, we're just trying to do what we feel is best for the organization and the team at all costs.
You definitely set me up with the follow-up for that question, Nick. Nick Caserio joining us here on Sports Talk 790. You may or may not know this. I do the same thing with my co-host that you do with D'Amico. We talk every day. We get together every day. We do not necessarily see things the same way. We disagree on nearly everything. Is there an instance?
That's why you guys have a great show.
I certainly appreciate that. Is there an instance, even if you're not going to go into full details of the story, where you just simply didn't see things the same way and you really were convicted and he was really convicted and ultimately I'm sure you met a resolution, but that has to have happened, right?
Yeah, I would say neither one of us are stubborn, and I would say just whatever side you're on, it comes with player evaluation. There's a subjective element of player, how you see the player, what his strengths, what his weaknesses are. I think anytime you evaluate a player or look at a player, it's how do we see the role? How do we think we're going to be able to utilize that player? And here's the reason why. And if we get to a point where we can't maybe arrive at an end point, then we might say, you know what, let's just pivot, go another direction. And I think that's what, football is about and team building is about. You got to be ready to pivot. You got to be ready to adjust. And you can't be too stubborn and so fixated on one particular thing, one particular player, one particular topic. Because in the end, whatever the decision is, we make the decision. And then when it's done, then we move forward. And then we're going to support one another. We're going to support each other. We're going to support the staff. I've said this publicly as well. My job is to kind of be a fiduciary to the entire organization, support the coaching staff, support the football operations staff, support ownership, kind of be a point guard, get things moving in the right direction, and just kind of fill gaps as needed. So, again, we've always had constructive discussions, nothing to the point where it's confrontational, because quite frankly, there's no benefit to getting to that point.
Texans fiduciary.
And he beat my ass anyway if we had a confrontation, so I'm not going to win that one.
You said it, so I didn't have to. Texans fiduciary Nick Caserio joining us here on Sports Talk 790. Yeah, not somebody I'd wanted to get into a physical altercation with, because he looks like he could put on the pads right now and be very effective still.
He definitely could. He absolutely could.
Yeah. I'll phrase it this way, because I think you've done a phenomenal job building out this roster, particularly on the defensive side, particularly with later draft picks, that kind of thing. I know that you have heard the clamoring from the fan base, from everybody in town. Why can't you fix the offensive line? What's wrong with the offensive line? So tell me why the Houston Texans fan base, everybody in this city that wants to see this team succeed, and specifically wants to see C.J. Stroud succeed. And in my case, I thought he was unfairly criticized for the quote-unquote sophomore slump last year. Why we should look forward to improved offensive line play this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think the point that you made there, right, wrong, or indifferent, the quarterback is always going to get more of the blame or more of the credit. That's just the nature of the position and everything that comes along with it. But the reality is, we play a team sport. So, look, we rely on 53 players, however many we have on each side of the ball, specifically on the offensive line. Offensive line play, it's about a group of five kind of playing as one. And I think when you look across the league, players come in all different shapes and sizes. I think the big thing is just getting the group to play with a certain level of consistency and just avoid some of the mental errors. You're going to get beat physically. That happens to everybody. Our defense is as good as any defense in the league, and we're going to see a lot of good defenses this year. So at some point, the offense is going to win or the defense is going to win, and you just want to make sure that you're working collectively on the offensive side of the ball, and there's timing. It's understanding where the issues are. Is there an option on the play? Do we have a better alternative? So we made a lot of changes. There's a number of players that have experience in our system who we feel are going to be an asset to this team. We've added some new players. We drafted Ariante in the second round. Feel like he has an opportunity to help our team at some point. But guys like Jared Patterson and Juice Scruggs, they've had opportunities and they've played well in those opportunities. Is it perfect? No, nobody's perfect. So we're all just trying to see if we can improve and get to a point where we just play good team football on a consistent basis. And there's been flashes. But every year is a different year. Make some changes offensively, not only personnel, but including on the coordinator side. So a lot of this takes work. So, again, that's what training camp is for. And I'd say D'Amico has said this publicly. We've certainly made progress from where we started to where we are now, and that's all you can ask for. And then really once you get into the season, it's about who are we playing, what are the issues, what do we have to do to limit the problems and mitigate the risk. And then just go out there. And most importantly, if we take care of the football, that's a good place to start. And then you got to be able to execute situationally when it matters most.
What is the number one thing you think Nick Caley brings to the table that is going to be different from last year, that's going to help CJ, put him in that position to succeed like you guys are talking about?
Well, it's just you got to start with you put the system in place, and then really every coordinator is about, all right, who are the players? What do you have? What do those players do well? How do we put those players in a position where they can optimize like their skill? I mean, I think a lot of people want to get caught up in quote unquote offensive systems, but offensive football, I mean, we're a very personnel driven league. And when you get the third down, when you get into the red area, it's really about players. So can you just position the players and put them in a position where they can capitalize on the opportunity and execute when it matters most? But, Nick has a lot of experience in multiple systems. I think Nick's a really good listener. So Nick has his ideas of what he wants the offense to look like. But the reality is, it's kind of like we talked about a little bit earlier. You got to be ready to adjust and you got to be ready to pivot. And I think Nick has the mentality and the mindset to be able to do that as necessary. So we put a lot of work here in the spring. Put a lot of work here in training camp. We'll have an opportunity to go out there and play Saturday night here against Minnesota. We'll have a few more opportunities with Carolina next week coming to practice, play them, Detroit, and then kind of get ready to go for a really good Rams team week 1. So it's going to take a lot of work, take a lot of effort. Nick's a really good coach. He has a variety of experience. He's worked on the defensive side of the ball, and then he kind of flipped to offense, and it's kind of learned offense from the ground up. So excited to have Nick here. We have a good offensive staff in place, so it's going to take everybody contributing, and it really, in the end, it's going to come down to consistent work on a day-to-day basis and just trying to put ourselves in the best position where we have an opportunity to go out there and can execute on Sundays when it matters.
10 seconds before I let you go. You and I have a mutual friend down the dial who is a wrestling fan. You know who I'm talking about. With the recent passing...
That would be Sean. Yes, yeah, I'm aware. Yes, go ahead.
Exactly. So with the recent passing of Hulkster, you got a favorite main event in his illustrious career?
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I do have a vivid memory in that picture of him body slamming Andre the Giant in WrestleMania. It was like, oh my gosh, how is that even going to happen? So Hulk's had a lot of good moments, but I would say when I was a young buck, I was a young kid at the time. But that one kind of sticks in my head. And I would say the NWO heel turn, I was a big fan of that as well. So that was awesome.
Good answers, both of them. Well, Nick, we appreciate the time. Good luck this season, and we'll have to catch up again soon.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Nick Caserio, Texans GM here on Sports Talk 790. We'll discuss all of what he had to say when we come back.
The A-Team on Sports Talk 790.